This is the story of the electronic instruments that shaped modern music. Strange machines designed by nutty professors whose quirky bleeps and hums came to rock our world.
Good evening.
The font of all weirdy noises is the MiniMoog, or Moog if you're an anorak. Favoured in the 70s by Pink Floyd and Roxy Music, it became the last word in having a cool wooden box on stage. Designed by Moog, it became an overnight success. But the don of Moog experimentation was the king of prog rock, Wakeman. Now he appears on Countdown.
This is my love of my life. Not this actual particular one, because this is borrowed, but I've got 3 that are the love of my life. I used to have 9, but 6 of them were nicked. That ain't one of them, unfortunately.
It's a great machine for generating bass synthy sounds, for electronic blips, for certain signs of cutting lead lines. It's an instrument. You get the best out of it from actually playing it from a keyboard. So people like me, not so brilliant necessarily, we define Moog as makes odd orgasmic groans.
There's no doubting what a sexy mother it is. Check out that walnut panelling.
The thing about the MiniMoog, it was the first thing that was actually portable.
If I do that. So this is the sound source, so you can change the pitch there.
The MiniMoog actually was, you've got this like, keyboard in a little cabinet you could wheel on stage.
And then the sound goes into the filter, and I can change the brightness.
Sort of kills off the theatre.
Here's Keith Emerson, giving it some serious welly on his very own power station. The MiniMoog sought to get rid of such unwieldy machines, but gave the prog rockers new problems all of its own.
And they suffered very badly from picking up RF, radio frequencies, anywhere you played, which used to happen a lot on early pedals in the 70s, like you pressed a pedal down and you were in a building that had aerials on the roof, you get the local taxi firm, the local cable company, all that sort of junk. And the best one I ever had was at Crystal Palace Bowl with Yes, when we were doing Close to the Edge, and I put my foot pedal down, and it was exactly 5 o'clock on a Saturday, and we got football results. It's great. So we all copied them down for 3 minutes and then started playing. Bob Moog came and saw the show, and it was at half-time, and he came into the dressing room, and Bob's a wonderful character, really, really, really wonderful guy, and he said, and I told him about this RF problem before, and he said, I can hear your problem. He said, it is bad, isn't it? I said, yeah. I said, it's almost unplayable. You ended up trying to work with one oscillator or something like that. So he said, I've got an idea. Can I just go up on stage? We used to have curtains in front of the stage. It's Maple Leaf Gardens, 26,000 people, whatever it was. And he went up on stage during the interval, and we were having a long break, half hour or whatever. We went to go back on stage, and the opening music's playing for the second half. The curtains are closed. I went up there, and he'd got my 2 MiniMoogs that I used totally in pieces on top of the piano. I had a grand piano there. They're just all in pieces. And I said, Bob, we're starting now. And he went, know what it is? And the curtains open, and it's one of the only times that we ever played on stage, yes, where there was a 6-piece on stage, because Bob didn't go, he just stayed there. And you can see like 26,000 people going, who's the grey-haired geezer with the curly hair? What's he doing? And I think it was John who just went up and said, oh, the man who brought synthesizers to the world of rock and roll, this is Dr. Bob Moog. And the place went potty. And he suddenly realised that he wasn't just a sort of an icon for us musicians, but for the kids at the time. He was just like a hero.
Most of the kind of... So, there's this kind of fetishism of that it produces the real electronic sound as opposed to digital stuff. So I think that's the thing that that it really has given to the world of electronic music. You see Moog on T-shirts. It's become, I don't know, it's a mark of quality and a mark of authenticity.
What else can you do? And this, and this, and this, plus that, and that, and those lot over there can all be connected.
I think the thing about the Moog in general, about MiniMoog, is it's just pure funk. Those are the sounds that it creates. I mean, in striving to create some sort of approximation of real instruments, you're ending up
with these incredibly dirty, filthy, sleazy, sort of synthesised sounds. If you listen to records like Blow Your Head by the JBs, it's just this, when you first heard that record, or when you heard it sampled on first Public Enemy record, you're just going, oh my God, what's this incredible sort of sleazy, ghetto funk sound? No idea where it comes from. Maybe 10 years later you realise that that's a Moog. And I think that's why people fetishise it now, is because the sounds coming out of that are otherworldly sounds that couldn't have come from any other instrument.
The great thing about it, though, is it's also very timeless, isn't it? It doesn't sound like a particular era, so it lends itself hugely to sampling, which is kind of missing the point, because the thing about the Moog was that it wasn't just the keyboard buttons that you operated, it was all the modulation knobs as well. So weirdly, it's actually very organic, isn't it? You can get little subtleties into it that you can't get with the digital thing, where you've just got a block of sample and maybe a bit of bend on it or whatever.
So you mix that with that?
I think if you use synthesizers, you can get incredible sounds out of them, but you just can't get that dirt, that filth. Yeah. It's like you can. If it's like comparing playing a synthesizer to playing a guitar, you can't get feedback on a synthesizer, but you can sort of really rock out, and you can rock out on a Moog.
Thanks, lads, but not everyone loves the MiniMoog, you know.
I think the MiniMoog is one of the single most overpriced, overrated heaps of wood and metal I've ever laid eyes on. I don't particularly like it. It can, its limitations are not that fantastic. It sort of, the Moog especially does one sound and it does it well. It's not really that variable. People love it for the bass sound you can get out of it, and for the soaring lead sound that you can get out of it. Well, great, but there's stuff that you can buy that won't cost you 1,200 quid and is a hell of a lot more reliable, that will do that for you in another way itself. And I think it's kind of a bit, it's kind of a bit lazy. I think there's this sort of rich kid kind of approach to it as well from a lot of producers, who sort of feel that once they've sort of started remixing and earning a bit of money, that they have to have the MiniMoog.
Pink Floyd, and particularly Hawkwind, I remember, put them to good effect through all those kind of take-off space sounds that they used to have at the beginning of their tracks. But also, everybody used them. But again, these were all very expensive for a kind of the normal bloke in the street who wanted to get into electronic music. It was very difficult to do that before about 77, 78, just because the cost was so prohibitive. And that was a kind of, the MiniMoog, sorry, I'm pointing there because there's a MiniMoog there, that kind of represented that kind of musical elitism of it at the time. Because there was a very dual feel, in my mind anyway, and a few other people I spoke to. At one point the synthesizer was a very elitist instrument, but at the same time it had so many possibilities that people wanted to get their hands on. So there was a kind of snobism against it, which I suppose was particularly articulated by punk. Yet there are people like me and, I suppose, Throbbing Gristle and Cabaret Voltaire and all my contemporaries who really wanted to get their hands on them and fuck them about, really.
Nowadays, the MiniMoog is part of the furniture, which is handy given how it looks. Still a classic bit of kit, it made a recent guest appearance on Jamiroquai's #1 hit, Deeper Underground, the theme from Godzilla. Oh well.
It did various things, the MiniMoog. One of the most important things the MiniMoog did was, for the first time, the keyboard player could do a solo and could be heard. I know it sounds really daft, but the hammered organ, I remember going to see bands in the 60s and things, and as soon as it came to the organ solo, everybody had to go quiet, so it could just about be heard, and it was really naff. Or if at the piano, everybody had to go really quiet, because there's the only way you could hear, and then the band kept going again. I mean, it was a guitarist's heaven. The MiniMoog will cut through concrete. It's the equivalent of the percussion player's tambourine. I mean, you can put a tambourine amongst 5,000 guitar players playing flat out, and you'll still hear the tambourine. The MiniMoog is exactly the same. Suddenly, you had an instrument you could solo on. That was the greatest thing that the Moog brought to keyboards. Suddenly, the keyboard player, really could be heard, and it was. I don't think Bob really realised that when he first put it all together, but nobody has ever come even remotely close to producing a solo synth sound that can do things that this can do.